The Brody File heads to Iowa, #BroadTrip, and our cameras get the exclusive of Prayer and Politics evangelical style.
Preach the word and rally the remnant, and leave the outcome to God.
Plus, one-on-one with the man of the hour, Ted Cruz.
I think we're at the edge of a precipice. If we keep going down this path, we're risking losing our nation.
Rand Paul is also with us, talking presidential politics and the important state of Iowa.
I grew up in a rural state in a town of 13,000, so I think I feel a connectedness with people from a rural setting.
The Brody File in the Heartland. We're in Iowa, and we're on the air across America. And welcome everybody to the Brody File, another edition, and guess where we are? That's right, we're here in Iowa, believe it or not, and guess what? It's not snowing. There's not 2 feet of snow on the ground because it's beautiful this time of year, and I gotta tell you, politics has not been lost on Iowa at all. I know, the 2016 presidential election 2 years or so away. So what? It's already started, believe me. We have video later on in the show from Ted Cruz and Rand Paul and lots of pastors talking about Judeo-Christian values in America. All of that later, but first, spiritual revival in America. Look, gay marriage in the Supreme Court, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of folks, a lot of evangelicals in this country very concerned with the direction of where our nation is going next. And so that leads to the question of spiritual revival in America. There are a lot of folks that believe that's the only thing that's going to save this great country of ours. And we begin with this report.
And justice for all.
Here's an evangelical riddle. What combines gospel singing, fiery preaching,
God is saying, whoa,
political speeches,
We are in a battle to turn this country around.
and prayer for possible presidential candidates?
Lord, we're asking for wisdom here today. You'll be with the senator.
The answer is Iowa's Pastors and Pews event, a 2-day gathering for hundreds of pastors to hear the importance of speaking boldly from the pulpit about today's cultural issues.
Preach the word and rally the remnant, and leave the outcome to God.
This event has reached more than 10,000 pastors since it began nearly a decade ago. It will soon spread to more than a dozen other states around the country. The main organizer is David Lane.
If the Lord does it, we're going to turn America back to Him and reestablish a Christian culture.
And that will take pastors helping to organize those in the pews. Look at these startling figures. Event organizers say of the roughly 65 to 80 million evangelicals in the United States, only 50% are registered to vote. And only half of those registered show up on Election Day.
If they do not vote, they are betraying the Lord Jesus Christ.
The Wilkes brothers worry that America's declining morals will especially hurt the younger generation, so they're using the riches that the Lord has blessed them with to back specific goals.
I just think we have to make people aware, and bring the Bible back into the school and start teaching our kids at a younger age.
They're being taught the other ideas, the gay agenda every day out in the world.
And many here believe the church has allowed secularism to creep into their flocks. Another part of the problem, many pastors fear the IRS will come after their tax-exempt status if they bring politics to their pulpits.
We're not being thrown to the lions. We're not having our heads chopped off. We're not, we're being cowards because we want money.
Everyone here agrees that boldness is needed, including Senators Rand Paul and Ted Cruz.
Book of Hosea tells us, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. Edmund Burke put the points a little differently when he said, the only thing necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing.
We must do something that our world often tells us not to do. We must seek God for our redemption and salvation, for our country's revival.
And that's what these pastors pray for above politics, spiritual revival.
Father, we're again in need of another great awakening.
The first Great Awakening began in the 1700s, led by pastors like Jonathan Edwards and George Whitefield. In the following century, a second revival saw large camp meetings spread like wildfire. Is there a third Great Awakening just around the corner?
There's a lot of people who want it to happen. I don't know if people are committed enough yet to see it happen.
Some of that doubt could be due to events over the last 50 years that have taken aim at Christian principles. Example, 1963, public school prayer, gone. The legalization of abortion a decade later. And now what seems like the cultural acceptance of homosexual marriage. And that serious stuff is not, according to these pastors, going to be solved by politicians.
These politicians aren't good at much, but they're good at this. Seeing which way the wind is blowing. We need to change the direction of the wind.
And that wind can only come from above.
Somebody's values are going to reign supreme. So my guess is, spiritually speaking, we need mercy. The mercy of God.
You know, one of the people at that Pastors and Pews event here in Iowa was Steve Deace. He is a conservative radio talk show host, evangelical conservative radio talk show host here in Des Moines, Iowa. That's where he's based, but he's got a national radio show. However, in Iowa, this is really where he made all of his hay, so to speak, because he's got a lot of clout. They kind of call him the evangelical kingmaker because he's not only well connected in Iowa, but he indeed has a platform of a 3-hour radio show every single day. And if candidates want to be something or someone in Iowa, they go to Steve Deace and they try to get his support. Here's some of our conversation from earlier.
What is your sense about the buzz out here in terms of who might be a player out here in 2016?
I have never seen a phenomenon like Ted Cruz, ever. Now I'm going to be 40 years old this year, and I'm trying really hard not to think about that, okay? But so I'm too young to remember Ronald Reagan's ascendancy. You know, I can't compare it to that. And we also didn't have all the media in 1976 and 1980 that we have today. But I have never seen anything like it. Nothing this quickly. It's almost like if we got together in a lab, and we, meaning the conservative base, and we concocted, all right, what would we want in a candidate? It's like Ted Cruz opens his mouth and the base of the Republican Party comes out.
How important are evangelicals today compared to, quote, yesteryear?
That the evangelical vote is still very important. It is the rock-solid core base of the Republican Party. You can knock Rick Santorum all you want. He got twice as many votes as Ron Paul got in the last primary cycle. And I'm guessing a lot of those people were evangelicals. But for evangelicals going forward, I think one thing we're going to have to come to grips with is when you get to my age and younger, the next generation of evangelicals will not be motivated to vote Republican out of the lesser of two evils or access-based, meaning we got to negotiate our seat at the table. They are very cynical about the political process. They simply do not care about that. We're seeing an emergence of evangelical teachers in my age group and younger around America who have podcast subscribers in the millions but do not get involved in politics because they do not want to be tainted by the political compromises of the past. And so after we get past 2016, when you get into 2020 and 2024 and 2028, the way that the evangelical base is going to have to be mobilized will be different than it was in 1988, 92, and 96.
That is Steve Deace here on the Brody File. You know, one guy who has spent a lot of time in Iowa, and he's not even from Iowa, he's actually from Pennsylvania, Rick Santorum. That's right, you remember Rick? We spent so much time with him on the campaign trail. We were like in full stalking mode. You know all about that here at the Brody File. Well, look, he was basically running for governor of Iowa because he won the Iowa primary, and that was the only way he was going to do it, by spending so much time here. So what is in store next for Santorum? Is he going to run? Well, he's being very coy about his plans, not really saying at this point. The Brody File predicts that he will get into the race. I don't think there's any question that he will, based on the fact that he finished second to Romney, and Ted Cruz and Rand Paul and some of these other guys haven't proven themselves in national or at least GOP primaries, so we will see. All right, when we come back, speaking about Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, boy, oh boy, do we have a conversation for you with them. Actually, wait a minute, I was talking with them, but it's a conversation that you'll enjoy. Believe me, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, right here in Iowa as the Brody File rolls on from the Hawkeye State.
Hi, my name is Breda. I'm just your typical 9-year-old. I love singing, dancing, reading, discovering the simple truth. My grandpa says you're never too young or old to learn the value of a dog. He taught me the true value of this paper dog. You see this little gold coin? It says $1 on it. But guess what? That was a long time ago. Today, this gold dollar is worth over 100 paper dollars. This paper dollar is now only worth 1 penny compared to America's former money, the gold dollar. My grandpa says the only money worth saving today is real money, gold or silver coins. He's pretty smart. How our paper dollars lost their value, he says. It's all explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. It's easy and fun to read. If you call the number on the screen, I will send you a copy totally free. Next time, I will explain the simple truth about money.
Help! If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was. Help! And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a Medical Alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry. They have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free Medical Alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
And welcome back, everybody, to our special edition of the Brody File here in Iowa. We are in beautiful Pella, Iowa, one of our favorite towns here on the Brody File. I mean, they got windmills, they got cakes, they got a lot. Well, they have sugar-free items with Brody File. Big fan of sugar-free items as well. All right, let's talk about something maybe not so sweet, and this has to do with Reince Priebus, the chairman of the Republican National Committee. He has been blasted, I tell you, by evangelicals and Tea Party conservatives. They're not happy with him because they think he has gone all GOP establishment on them, that it's all about winning elections for Reince Priebus and the Republican National Committee, and it's not about principle. We recently had a chance to talk to the chairman about those issues. I want to talk to you about this way forward for the GOP. I mean, look, you know, and you and I have talked about this before, but when you use that word we have to be more tolerant, in what the RNC put out. I mean, evangelicals start to grab the Excedrin bottles when they hear tolerance because they think, oh no, the GOP's changing and the whole gay marriage situation. I mean, why don't you address this and maybe put evangelicals at ease a little bit, or can you put them at ease at all here?
Well, 100%. I mean, first of all, I don't know if I've used the word tolerance. I don't really care for that word myself. I don't have a problem with it. I just think it has another meaning politically that can go the other direction. I happen to believe that our principles are sound. I do believe, and I still will tell you, that our party believes that marriage is between one man and one woman. Our party believes that life begins at conception. I think those are foundational issues that aren't going anywhere. But what I have said, which I don't think should be controversy at all, and I would think that Christians and pastors and everyone in between should agree, that our principles have to be draped in the concepts of grace, love, and respect. And that's not code language, that's the New Testament. And so I don't think there should be any problem with that thinking within our party, and that's all I've said. It's not what you say. I think it's sometimes like our moms used to tell us, it's how you say it. And so I think that's really the issue, and quite frankly, I think some of that has been overblown, and so I'm happy to address it, but clearly myself and our party haven't changed on those principles.
That is Reince Priebus here on the Brody File. By the way, on a separate, name note, Reince Priebus, that's a name, and that's a whole nother show. I mean, we got to do a show on it. Do we not? We need to do a show for sure on that name. All right, a big name-making news nationally and especially here in Iowa is Ted Cruz. You know, he has now been to Iowa a few times, and ding, 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 if you come to Iowa, you know what that means. You're not here for the corn. You're literally here to potentially run for President of the United States. And we had a chance to sit down with Ted Cruz when he spoke to pastors, about 400, 500 or so pastors from Iowa here, and it was a real interesting conversation. Have a look. Senator, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Listen, I want to ask you about, we've been hearing a lot of talk about spiritual revival in this country. These pastors are dead serious about it. What is your sense about that? Do you believe that spiritual revival is needed in this country right now?
Without a doubt. Our country is facing unique challenges. Everywhere I go, people are really afraid for the future of our country. I think we're at the edge of a precipice. If we keep going down this path, we're risking losing our nation. We're risking losing the incredible oasis of liberty. I mean, if you think of the history of this country, the United States of America is unique in the annals of the world. We were founded by brave men and women from across the world who fled religious oppression, came here seeking freedom and seeking to establish a government limited by a constitution, as Thomas Jefferson put it, as chains to bind the mischief of government. What we have seen in recent years is an explosion in the power of the federal government over our daily lives.
As Ted Cruz here on the Brody File. All right, we also talked to Senator Rand Paul. He was also here to talk to these pastors, to meet with these Iowa pastors. And look, let's be honest, okay? Forget the dirty little secret. It's out. You know Rand Paul's running for president. He's not going to say that specifically, but he's showing all of the signs of doing so. And we had a little conversation with him as well.
You know, I know there's been talk about you maybe running in 2016, and you know, you've shown obviously some potential signs there, and you've not been ashamed to, or not ashamed, but not shy, ashamed. But my question to you is, how important is Iowa in 2016 as compared to 12, 08, 04? I mean, are things changing here, or do you feel like Iowa still has its preeminence, its importance?
I think it will continue to do so, and I think it was actually wise the way we set it up. I'm not sure how long it's been this way, but at least in the Republican primary, we start in small states. We start in Iowa, we start in New Hampshire, we have South Carolina, it's a little bigger state, but we also have Nevada, which is a small state. So 3 of the first 4 are pretty small states. And I think what's good about it is simply what people say. Voters will come up and say, well, I'm not sure about so-and-so. I've only met him 5 times. You know, maybe if I meet him again, I'll be able to make a decision. So there really is a lot of personal retail politics in the sense that people meet each other one-on-one. They judge you not only on what you say on TV and what your commercial sound bites say, but on your character. They've probably met your wife. They may well have met your kids, you know, before they make a decision. So whether I run or not, I am in favor of the small primaries. I like the idea of small states. I grew up in a rural state in a town of 13,000, so I think I feel a connectedness with people from a rural setting.
That is Rand Paul here on the Brody File. All right, when we roll on from Iowa, we are going to go inside the Pastors and Pews event. It's very interesting. You're going to actually hear from these pastors and what they feel is the crisis here in America. Back in a moment.
You've got everything you thought would make you happy. A promising career, plenty of friends, and a growing family. But life seems empty. Something's missing. Only God can bring real meaning to life. True happiness comes from knowing Him. Discover how God can change your life. Watch the 700 Club. Too often we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
When I grow up, I want to be a teacher.
I want to be a doctor. Someday, I'm going to be a good papa.
My dream is to be a mother.
I want to travel the world.
Someday, I'm going to be president. I want to help people.
My dream is to have a family.
Every child has a dream.
But for thousands of orphans in Europe, those dreams are crushed. No hope and no future. But is that what you'd want for any child? Don't just stand and watch. Release the dreams of a child today. Through Orphans Promise, you can provide education, skill training, and career placement for vulnerable children all across Europe. Call Orphans Promise today. You can bring children's dreams to life.
And welcome back, everybody, to beautiful, sunny, not snowy, sunny Iowa. And here in Pella, Iowa, I got to tell you, it's one of the cutest little quaintest towns in Iowa. And I mean, we love it. We just love it. All right. We also love being the only camera inside Pastors and Pews. It's an event. It's put on by David Lane. He is kind of a evangelical organizer. He puts these things together. They're in 14 states across the country. This is when pastors from each state get together and basically talk about the issues facing America today. The whole idea here is that these pastors really need to be more involved about speaking out about the issues from the pulpit. And so they're encouraged to do so, and they get to share their heart and share their feelings at this conference set up. Their wives are invited and everything. Have a look at some of what the pastor said.
We are the most prideful country in the world. Do you think it was a coincidence when Superstorm Sandy hit, when the drought that we're in has been going? Do y'all not hear God saying, woe to this nation? He has said woe so many times. And yet, I seen an interview, or I seen where our president stood before a bunch of New Jerseyans and said, you are stronger than any Superstorm Sandy. Are we such an arrogant nation that we think we can stand up to the hand of God?
As pastors, this isn't about candidates or parties or political ideology or the next election or the next 10 elections. It isn't even about the survival of the country. God called us to be his spokesman, to preach his word. And if we will do that, the political system will change, not from the top down, but from the bottom up. As we've heard again earlier this evening, that's the advantage of being the last guy on the list. Everything I've said, they've already said. But, you know, these politicians aren't good at much, but they're good at this. Seeing which way the wind is blowing. We need to change the direction of the wind.
All right, look, when it comes to evangelicals, you know, you've got the gay marriage issue, but of course you also have the abortion issue. It's a big deal. And I must tell you, one of the reasons we came to Iowa was to look at this woman named Dr. Jill Meadows. We're looking at her more closely. She is being called, at least by some pro-family folks out here, she's being called the Iowa version of Kermit Gosnell. That's right. She has been involved in partial birth abortions and some pretty nasty stuff. We tried to get an interview with her. It was not able to happen. However, we do have a report on what she's all about. Dr. Meadows is currently the medical director of Planned Parenthood of the Heartland. That covers the states of Nebraska and Iowa. Before that, she trained Iowa medical students on how to perform abortions. What is a huge concern for pro-life activists in Iowa is the testimony that she gave at the U.S. Supreme Court in support of partial birth abortion. She describes taking the baby apart and having to crush the skull to remove the baby. Even worse, she doesn't anesthetize the baby before doing this. It's all detailed in Supreme Court documents.
She testified very graphically, actually, to ripping babies apart, limb by limb, compressing their skull while there was a fetal, what she called a fetal heartbeat, meaning those babies are alive when she delivered them.
As for the media's interest in this case, it's been pretty much non-existent.
It's frustrating because you can't get anybody to listen, and you know that babies are dying in every direction in the state of Iowa.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that story. Clearly, Dr. Jill Meadows could get a lot more media attention, especially after what we are exposing right there. When we come back, we are going on a road trip. That's right, the Brody File crew on the road. We're going to tell you more about that.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need, just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File, an Iowa version of the show. We love coming to Iowa, and you know, I gotta tell you, this really gets us out of the stuffy old studio in the office, and we've got Shoshana Nunez, our producer here of the Brody File. We got Mark Batista here with us, as well as the photographer, the videographer, and I gotta tell you, we had a fun time. I mean, it's Iowa. I mean, it's loads of fun, right? Hey, take a look at our road trip. Well, you can follow us also on Twitter at #BroadTrip. That's right. Anytime we're on the road, we'll put up the hashtag #BroadTrip. We hope you will follow us in Iowa and other places because, look, we had a great time in Iowa, and I have to tell you, what happens in Iowa stays in Iowa, if you know what I'm saying. All right, that does it for the Brody File. We're back in the stuffy old studio next week. Until then, have a great week, and God bless.